This is the official post-event press conference for EFC 102 from the EFC Performance Institute, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And that wraps up an incredible EFC 102. The fans, trainers, fighters, everybody that came and supported this event, it was on point. And I'm just so proud of all the guys that competed on this card, and ladies that competed on this card. They put their hearts and soul into this event. Probably one of the best events we've put on in the last 5 years, in my opinion. I'm going to go straight into the bonuses. We're going to start with Fight of the Night. We think the fight between Luke Hendricks and Christian Malamba was just standout. The guys went toe-to-toe. They get Fight of the Night. Vincent Nkana, he kept that fight going to the very end, and in the beginning of that fight, he didn't look like he had much in it, and he pushed all the way through. And then to none other than Marku, who just put on a superb finish, built the whole fight up, and I'm really proud to have as our new welterweight champion of EFC. Let's kick it right across to our awesome media who are packed tonight. Mark.
Thanks, Graham. And I suppose first question goes to the new champ. Mark, we spoke yesterday about having a clear head, not using and not having too much emotion coming into this fight. Zico seemed to be very emotional stepping into the cage. Do you think that played a little bit too much away from his favor in terms of how the fight ultimately ran out?
I definitely think that Zico took the bait and he was emotional. He came in there hot-headed. There was a moment I stood in there, my team behind me, my coach. I can't explain to you guys, Morne first, the level that he's on, the way that he's nurtured me into the man and the athlete that I am today. And I looked across the cage at a raging bull. And I thought to myself, that's funny, that was me not too long ago, that raging bull that came in there. And the thing with the raging bull is one step to the side and he's past you. And I feel that was
fight standing, because I wanted to display it as well. Tonight I came out just trying to display hands and feet, and I didn't expect a takedown. But yeah, finally, eventually it went my way, so I'm happy with that as well.
That's a question. I'm going to just pick up on what JC said, and it's the question for you, Graham Cartmel, EFC Matchmaker. The light heavyweight division, how do you see that landscape, and where does JC fit into it in this year?
Look, I'm so glad we got him back. You know, there's been such a long talk to get this guy back into the hexagon. He's finally here. I was going through all the fights that this guy's had in the organization. He has fought beasts, his own training partners that have become his training partners, like Dricus du Plessis. I mean, there's fights that this guy's had that were performance bonus before we even knew what those were. And he was putting these great fights on. He's come back with a resurgence. That fight proved that he belongs to be at the top of that division. You know, long story short, we've got to look at a title fight for him. I would love to look at a title fight. I know that he hasn't fought a lot coming back, but he's definitely worth it. And we'll have to look outside of the organization. We'll have to look at international. That would be the ideal. Yeah, and I would love to see this atmosphere explode with the CRT guys and him, you know, headlining a title fight. Absolutely.
Questions for Shannon van Tonder. Shannon, where does that win put you in the featherweight division?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think far. Yeah, man, I don't know.
Could you elaborate just a little bit more on that?
I don't know. I don't know the fighters. I don't know the standings. Even though the guys are, it sounds like they're disappointed at Ash, but bro, that's what happens when preparation and game plan comes together on the night and you put the performance in. It's like, it looks easy, but it's never easy. There's no such thing as an easy fight. So the rankings, I don't care. I want the Musa fight. I fought him sick, so I obviously want to redeem that. And yeah.
Just talk us through the fight. I mean, were you surprised that your opponent kept coming forward, and even though you had the power strikes and you're able to, you know, you had the better of the boxing, were you surprised that your opponent kept coming forward and taking the punishment?
You're talking about Ash now?
Talking about Juliet and Crystal van Wyk.
Sorry.
Sorry, mate.
You didn't ask. You kept on looking at him. I thought he was going to answer that.
Sorry, please, can you repeat the question?
Were you surprised that even though you were having the better of the stand-up, that your opponent just kept coming forward?
Anyway, I'm not surprised because I expected it. She's a very good fighter. And I know no matter what I do, I can really take her down because I know that is her discipline. So I decided maybe we do it by standing up. So that would be the best part of it.
My question's for the champion, Mark. Talk to us a bit about managing the moment. I mean, after having been away for such a long time, to come back in a high-stakes fight for the title, just give us a sense of where your mindset was at and how you ultimately kept your cool in there.
My brother, this last 2 years has been truly one of growth at my team CIT with my teammates, like UFC athletes, Dricus du Plessis, Cameron Simon. It's been an ongoing process. It's been a learning curve for me, and tonight has been, I feel like, my best performance of my life. I walked in there cool, calm, and collected, ready to do whatever I have to do to take that victory, and there was not an ounce of emotion involved. And once again, I give a lot of credit to my coach, Morne Visser, who's truly helped transform me into the person and the athlete that I am, and I believe that this is also one of the breakthroughs that we've been waiting for.
Mark, we've spoken often about certain things that you've had to endure over the course of your career and your life, and the different journeys that you've taken to try and win those battles. We spoke about your quality over many years as being a person who's deserving of being a champion and going on to the next level. How real does this moment seem to you, knowing everything that you've had to face? And then what do you see the future? I mean, what do you expect of yourself? What do you expect of your team as a unit? Where do you see yourself? Do you think you have the ability to go on and be a UFC champion?
The first thought that comes to mind is sometimes you can be your own worst enemy, and I think that was a big part of my life. I was my own worst enemy without realizing it, and this team has truly helped me turn my life around, turn my mindset around, and I think the world better watch out for Team CIT. They better watch out. They better be on stand-up alert, because we are taking over. We are not just taking over EFC, we are taking over any organization that will take us.
Next question for Juliet. It was very visible once you landed that first jab and seemed to break the nose of your opponent that it was always going to be a back foot fight. And as much as she tried to come forward, you kept on pushing her back. But can you tell us in the second round, why did the ref stop the fight, and what did the ref say to you because of some gesture that you made?
I wouldn't know much, but I think the referee stopped the fight because maybe our fingers was directly into my eyes. So that was why the referee stopped and then give some warning.
But he seemed to give you the warning.
I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe he can say better.
Thank you.
Juliet, I'll stay with you. Do you think, I mean, we as the audience are still relatively new to you and how you fight. Do you think in that cage today, your opponent brought the best out of you, or is there still so much more for you to show?
That is not the best part of me, but I know that I have many things to do. But I think she is also very good. But I know I give my best, but not actually all my best. Because I know I'm coming out again for the best. Just my groundwork and I'll be fine.
My questions are directed at the champ, Marky. Hello, my boy. So I've been fortunate enough to witness your journey. I think it's an amazing feat. Your trip to Cape Town, your walk to Cape Town, and your stay in Dagestan, do you think that's what shaped and molded you into the fighter you are today, or is the final piece of the puzzle landing up at CRT?
I don't think there's one definitive moment that transformed me into the fighter and person that I am. CIT is the best place that I could have landed up at. But before that, I had to walk a journey of 1,000 miles. People don't want to hear about the other side of the sport, the side where we struggle, the side where you're not fighting in the cage for your bread and butter, but you're fighting out there. You're managing training and whatever else you can to get an income. And when the pandemic hit, I was already going through life's difficulties for 2 years. And it came to a point where I love the sport so much and I have so much passion for it, but why is it being taken from me? And that journey that I walked to Cape Town was to find purpose, to get answers, to find out, is this for me? Is this sport for me? Because if I don't fight, I don't know what I'm going to do. And after the walk, I got a fight in Russia, and things started picking up from there. But it wasn't the final leg of the race yet, because I hadn't found my home, I hadn't found my people, I hadn't found my place. And when I settled at CIT, it's been a 2-year journey to get back to the cage, but it's been a 2-year journey of building a machine that can go all the way to the top, all the way to fighting the best athletes in the world. And I believe we are there.
I just want to add something. I found this out tonight at the commentators brief. This guy walked from Johannesburg to Cape Town on his own. Just decided that's what he wanted to do, did this journey of catharsis to try and find himself. I mean, that's the type of person that we're dealing with here, just dedication to what he wants in his life. And he's here now holding the belt. And I mean, that's just the resolution that he has. Go out there, make it happen for himself. I'm really proud of him. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Just to add to that, guys, it's not, difficulty is not a sad story. Difficulty is life, and conquering it brings you towards your goals. And I think that is what I want to transfer. It's not, life is difficult. We all have our struggles, but you fight through those struggles. You fight for what you believe in, and eventually you can get to your goals. And that's why I'm sitting here tonight, because I refuse to give up. I refuse to accept what felt like fate. And difficulty, if you learn to accept it and you learn to embrace it, it ends up with a golden platter.
And then, Marky, last question. Luca's wanting to know, are we going to see you defend the title?
Luca, my boy, honestly, only God knows what's in store for me after this. I am ready to fight. I didn't take any shots. I'm ready to fight next week. Well, the doctor said 7 days, no contact, so 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks and I'll face anyone. Let's go, boys.
This question's for Graham. Graham, Juliet immediately called for a title shot. How do you see the women's strawweight divisions panning out in 2023, and will she get that title shot?
I'd love to offer a title shot, but I think she needs to have another tough fight, to be brutally honest. I think Crystal was really, she brought it. Juliet was just incredible on the feet, used her striking really well. I'd like to see her in more of an all-round fight, to be brutally honest. Because Alice is going to really bring it to whoever she fights. She's right up there. She's right up there.
Graham, another question for you. Van Dam's obviously conspicuous by his absence. He limped out of the cage. You were mentioning just before that you think he may have a broken ankle. But the question, more pertinent, talks to the fact that in the moments after the ref stopped the fight, we could see Ivan protesting that he didn't tap, he didn't submit. Was there any conversations between you and Ivan after the fight?
No, I haven't spoken to Ivan yet. I'll be honest. I didn't see Ivan moving. He wasn't
Makes two
trying
of us.
to. He wasn't trying to do anything from that position. He was holding on to a leg, and there's only so long you can. I mean, there was no significant punishment. It's not like Van Damme was beating the hell out of him. He was hitting him in the side of the ribs. Ivan should have stood up. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I've been doing this for a decade. I mean, you don't just hold on to somebody. You got to get up. You got to fight. And just to touch on the injuries, Crystal van Wyk went to the hospital for her face, so go have her face seen too. Van Damme, he actually had a pre-existing injury on his ankle. Don't know whether it's broken. He's going to go have X-rays. He injured it in the fight. And Zico, I'm not too sure where Zico is.
Graham, I want to stay with you. Of course, Mark indicated after the fight that he has aspirations of the UFC one day. How difficult is your job continuing to grow and nurture this organization? Naturally, so fighters want to go fight in the UFC and other promotions in the world, but you also want to keep the best guys here defending their belts and fighting. Just tell us about what that means for your job in putting together fights.
It's difficult, but we factor it in. This is why we built this beautiful organization. We want these guys to go to the UFC. That's the whole purpose of this thing. We want them to fight for the biggest organization in the world, earn lots of money, and do really well. That's why they're here. You know, and if anybody hasn't realized that, that's the cultivation that EFC has added in the last 13 years to this combat sports on this continent. That's what we're doing. We discuss it amongst my partners and all the time. Like, we know that that's what he wants. When he was saying it in the hexagon, I was like, yeah, go for it, boy. If you can get in, amazing. It does make my job hard because I'm like, okay, there's a hole to fill. But we always manage to get talent coming up. And I'm sure Shannon's sitting here going, yeah, I want it at some stage. You know, JC's thinking about it, everybody. And there's a roadmap to it.
I got a follow-up on that question for Mark. Mark, obviously you want to go to the UFC. Your teammates are in the UFC. What's your opinion after fighting a little bit abroad on the other talent, the top-tier fighters in EFC? Where do you see them fitting in the UFC? Do you see guys like Shannon van Tonder one step away from the UFC, the same way you see yourself and JC?
I absolutely love that question. Thank you for asking it. One of the biggest things I despise is when people come to me and they go, oh, you're in Russia, they're so tough. Yes, they're tough, but we're also tough. You understand? I believe each and every one of these guys that compete here on the highest level can compete internationally. But the thing that breaks people is this. They go there and they think, oh, Russian, they tough. No, we tough. Africans are tough. I think we're showing that on the international circuit, and I truly wish that people would believe in themselves more, because they're not special. They're, you know, Russians, Americans, whoever, anyone that wants to come internationally, there's, like, we're all humans. What we put into training, what we put into our bodies is what we get out. And there's, honestly, I can say there's nothing special about anyone overseas that we don't have here.
Maybe a simple question for Mr. Lamprecht. Our former light heavyweight champion, Dalcha Lungumbula, if he had to come back to the EFC, how do you think you would fare against him?
Look, as I said it after the fight as well. I'll take anyone, whoever they're going to put across from me in the cage. But the thing is, first of all, when I take a title fight, I'm going to have to look at the time and my time management, because same with Willem, same with Kolokwane. I had mostly 3 sessions a week. Most of the time I had 2 sessions a week with everything that I do, teaching on the Bravo Tactical Africa, teaching close quarter survival all around South Africa. I've been traveling. 2 weeks ago, I went to Cape Town for a week. I didn't have any sessions on the mat during that time. So yeah, if I'm going to take a title fight, doesn't matter who you're going to put in front of me, I'm just going to have to manage my time a lot better. But that's something we're going to have to, exactly what Mark said, it's about the journey, you know. It's not about, and I told it to Kolokwane afterwards as well, people always see the outcome. They don't see the journey. They only see what happens in the cage. They only see win or lose. They don't see the journey. They don't see the work that you put in. They don't see the vacations that I miss with my family, prepping for this fight. And that's just it. It's just going to be, I don't care yet again whoever you're going to put in a coach. It's just managing that time to be able to prep for a title fight.
Question for Shannon. Shannon, it's clear that you want to fight against Musa. I spoke to Nicholas Wayne tonight. He's obviously the same as Mark. Wants to get into the UFC. He thinks he might have a shot at the Contender Series. Question for you and Graham. Do you think if he did go, a fight between you and Musa should be for the Bantamweight Championship?
That'll be cool. That'll be cool. Who else? And if there's someone else, then we'll sort it out. But that'll be really cool.
Graham, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that Musa Sitwape fight, I don't think people understand. He took that fight at short notice. His gas tank wasn't there, but the skills were there. And he looked great. And I think Musa ran away in the last round. And there's some unanswered questions as to whether how that would play out again. And for a title, we all know, when something like that is on the line, the whole thing changes. So, you know, I'm trying to sell the fight a little bit more because I want to see it. I'd love to see it, to be honest with you. And it's something we can make. You know, obviously, Nick hasn't gone to the UFC. It's in the air. There's a lot of the discussions about going overseas. It's all in the air until it actually gets nailed down.
Is there any talk between Musa and Nick about a title fight?
Yeah, they've both agreed to a fight. They both agreed to fight each other.
Which event?
July.
So looking ahead, Graham, 103 next, title fight at the top, and then I understand...
Interim title fight.
Interim.
Luke Michael has been blowing up Calvin's phone and everyone. Because certain people keep on saying, this is a middleweight title. He's like, no, it's not. It's interim.
An interim title fight headlines that bill. And then I understand we could see the return of Rudy Roots.
You 100% are seeing the return of Rudy Roots. He was in here today hitting pads. He looks incredible. And I've always liked that kid. I think he's going to go far, man. He's a good fighter. Him and Prince Olia are going to scrap it out. I think it's a hell of an interesting fight. Yeah, so that's going to happen next event, June.
Any other big matchups that you can reveal?
No, it is the next event. Mark, I love that you put me on the spot. I've actually put on so many, we've put on so many great fights. Oh, Cole Henning is going to be fighting Tapiwi Katikati.
Nice.
So we need to rebuild that. We're trying to get the Mikishi-Joe Cummins fight done. Cummins is in. Mikishi's said to me 1 million times he's in. It's just negotiation on money. But we'll get that right. What? Elvis Moyo. So this is a bizarre discussion. It's like, I spoke to Van Damme and Elvis at the weigh-ins, and Van Damme alluded to Triple H signing multi-fight deals in Russia, which I'm not even too sure about. I know he lost in Russia. He got knocked out, and I spoke to Conrad. He says he's not with his gym anymore, so he doesn't know. So the reality is, I don't know what's happening with Triple H. I'm going to try and get hold of him and see where he is. But Moyo's ready to go. He wants that fight. I mean, that's all he's talking about. He saw it in the Gate show, and that would have been earmarked for July. So if I can get it done and dusted, that's when we're going to see it. Man, it's going to be huge. Very big.
Thank you.
All right.
Question for Shannon. Congratulations on your performance over a veteran, I'd call him. Do you think Ashley's weight cut played into the finish?
Definitely. And there's a lot of tape on him, so we knew and obviously a bit more mileage on him. So from the gate, we knew pushing the body was going to bring out those bad shots from afar. And that's also why I didn't sprawl on him and have heavy hips, because he literally put his head in so nicely, because I was expecting the shot. Maybe if I didn't expect the shot, maybe he caught me off guard or not, but it's actually ridiculous how it played into our game plan and how we prepared for this. So yeah, man, respect to Ashley. I've got nothing against him. It's just business.
Last question for Juliet. How do you plan on celebrating your victory tonight?
I think I leave that for my manager.
That's a tough question.
Actually, we don't really know Joburg, and she got a plane tonight. So I don't think she will celebrate here, but probably she will celebrate in Lagos, Nigeria, or in Lubumbashi, in our electronic center with the team. So we'll see.
Julia, just to follow up to that, what do you expect the fan response to be to you coming out here, putting on a performance like that when you land back in Nigeria?
Please come again.
The fans, when you get back home, what do you expect the fan response to be to you after a performance like this?
Well, I expect so much from them. And I know they are going to be very proud of me as long as I go back home.
Amazing. Thank you very much, everyone. EFC 103 takes place on the 11th of May. Conrad Siabi versus JP Kruger. What a fight. For the interim middleweight title, we've got, like we mentioned, Rudy Roots taking on Prince Olia, and a huge card. We've got 14 fights on that. I'm going to try and keep it at 14. I want to say a huge congratulations to Mark, JC, all the guys and girls up here that have performed well, and we'll catch you on the 11th of May.
A Legend Slayer returns when the former champion JP Kruger battles BIA boss man Conrad Siabi for the interim middleweight strap at EFC 103, Thursday, 11th May, Johannesburg. Broadcast and ticket details at EFCworldwide.com.